Al. Okay, first off, apologies because it's kind of dark. It's raining. Also, I'm lazy. That's my story. It's not very exciting. This review requires a bit of movie magic. That was probably the nerdiest thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm really sorry for your eyes and your emotions. So usually when I do a review, I just kind of talk off the top of my head, and you can probably tell, but not today. Today, I made notes. We should get started because there are so many things to talk about. I am reviewing Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. This series is about as close to perfect as fiction can get. This is like the Harry Potter of manga. So, if you like manga, it's assumed you've read this and you like it, and if you don't like it, then you're not human. But it is just totally perfect. Perfect world, perfect characters, perfect messages, perfect plot, everything's perfect, perfect, perfect. So basically the plot of this story is there are two brothers in this land called Amestris, where alchemy is possible. Alchemy, you can basically create things out of other things, so form matter into different shapes and everything. It's kind of like magic, but it's science. These two brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, lose everything, and then they go on this journey to try to regain what they've lost, and by doing that they meet a lot of people and they get involved in this grand scheme plot thing, and lots of stuff happens, and there's military stuff going on, and it's really intricate and intense, and you just gotta understand, you gotta read this. The world of Amestris and the alchemy and everything is just so well imagined and so well done. And part of the thing that makes it so well done is that there's a lot of things that are like our world in it. Like in our world there's poverty and war and sadness, but there's also joy and love and really good things going on. And it's that balance that really makes it something interesting to read about. And all of these things, war and love and happiness and sadness, are touched on in so many different ways and from so many different perspectives that it's just amazing. This series manages to fully explore that world while still giving you a plot that's really exciting and full of action. It is the perfect balance of humor and heaviness and magic and reality. And that is something amazing to do, to blend these things in a way that makes it really real for you, but also makes it really entertaining at the same time. I remember I picked up this series after reading other kind of more popular manga, and there's a lot of manga out there that's really entertaining, but not a lot of stuff makes it real, and it's just kind of escapism, you know? And this one has that element of escapism, but at the same time it's got really important messages and themes and stuff that people can relate to. I remember the first thing that really made it real for me was when they were talking about a war that took place in the series, and they were talking about it in a really heavy-handed way, and in a lot of other things I'd read it was kind of like, oh, war, we're gonna prove our strength and get stronger, and in this it's like war is a horrible thing. And just that hint of reality inside of all the exciting magical stuff makes it really good to read for every kind of person. Like, people who enjoy just fun turning their brain off magic can look past the other things, and people who want kind of a story that can make them think can just enjoy it all, really. All of the characters in this series are fantastic, especially our two main characters, Edward and Alphonse, are so funny and so human, and you will fall in love with them. You'll love all of the characters, all of them. The side characters, even ones who are only on for like half a chapter, they are so well fleshed out and you think you know them personally. I really love to write, and Hiromu Arakawa is the kind of author that I strive to be. Like, to create a world as exciting as Fullmetal Alchemist and to put perfect characters into it, and then to actually make them work with it, that, wow, I don't know how to do that. And I don't know if I ever will. Nothing gets as good as this. Okay, so at this point in the review I'm going to be moving on to the spoiler section. So if you haven't read Fullmetal Alchemist or seen Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is basically the same thing, stop watching now unless you don't care about spoilers, in which case keep watching! I love Ed and Al. Following them is like going on your own journey. It's like they're yourself, and also they're your best friends, and also they're your children. They grow so much, and watching their character development is like amazing. Like, this manga, without everything except for Ed and Al's character development, would probably still be worth reading because, like, wow, those two. But I already talked a lot about them in my top 10 siblings thing, so if you really care, then you can go over there. But there are some other characters I definitely want to touch on, so let's go. Roy Mustang. I have way too much spare time. Mustang is such an interesting character because he's the coolest ever, but he's also a colossal dork. Like, the first time you're reading it, your opinion on him will change a lot. Like, I remember I was kind of, wow, he's really cool, maybe he's my favorite character. And then there's that part where you think he kills Maria Ross, and I was like, no, he's horrible, how could he do this? But then later on turns out he didn't. I'm like, wow, he's actually the coolest again. And then later on he turned out to be actually pretty funny and not as uptight as I thought he was. But this is because he, as a character, puts on a lot of really fake fronts. Like, not just for the people reading it, but for the people in the story, because he doesn't want anyone to know who he really is, because he has major PTSD and a whole tub of self-loathing. People in the story kind of get to know him pretty slowly. Like, the only people who really know a lot about him would be Hughes and Hawkeye, because they've known him the longest. And then there's other people who are kind of, oh, I've heard that he does this, and it's like, oh, and nobody really knows the full story. Not even the reader, not even in the end. He obviously has major PTSD, not just for the things he did in Ishval, but for later on when his best friend dies. You can totally see it destroying him. Like, he falls asleep in odd places and doesn't take care of himself, basically. And his psychology is just so friggin' spot on. Actually, everybody who is in Ishval, their psychology is exactly what it should be like for people who have gone through lots of major battles. Like, sometimes in books, characters go through situations of war or fighting, and it gets them honor and it makes them feel like they're stronger and more powerful, which is kind of the part of the military that the public sees, really, in real life. The part that they don't see so much is the after effects of war, and everybody knows about it, but it's not something a lot of people like to talk about. I remember Hiromu Arakawa actually interviewed people who fought in war, so she really did her research, and you can totally see that in her characters, and it's just amazing. But yeah, everybody who is in Ishval, absolutely 100% spot on. Like, Hawkeye hates herself. She has self-loathing. She says it flat out. It's not like she's depressed all the time, but underneath the surface, you know? And that's where a lot of people wear their scars in real life, is like deep down where you can't see it, and they don't talk about it a lot. But in moments of great stress, which happens in the series, you can really see it coming out. And it's the same with comic relief characters, like Hughes and Armstrong. When they first come in, you think they're just gonna be funny, like, oh, he's always showing pictures of his daughter and he's always doing his weird passed down the Armstrong line for generations, and that's like their thing, you know, it's their shtick. Except later on, they have really tragic backstories and they have really deep conversations with people, and in a lot of books, I think the tragic backstory is meant to excuse people's actions, and that's because, like, you know, as a kid, this happened to them, or like this thing happened to them. But in this, the things that happened to them that were sad in their past were self-inflicted. Like, they chose to join the military, they chose to fight in Ishval, and this is the repercussion for their actions. And that's how it goes sometimes in life. And even characters who are barely on screen, like Dr. Knox and Tim Marco, you can see how the war affects all the little ways they act. And the war is just such a major part of this story, like, woven in. And then along come the bright-eyed Elric brothers, the new generation, full of hope, untainted so much by the war. But they have their own self-inflicted baggage to carry. And they carry it. Boy, they're gonna carry that weight. Carry that weight a long time. I'm basically Paul McCartney. More characters. Winry is amazing, okay? Nobody insult Winry. I love that Winry is surrounded by all these people with magical powers and military influence, and she's just like a regular girl from a small town, and she's such a major part of the story. Like, she does everything she can to protect the things that matter the most to her. She's such a strong character. Azumi Curtis is an example of how well-rounded the characters are, in that she's super strong and really tough and like kind of mean, and she beats people up, but then she's really full of love, and when the situation calls for it, she's so caring and like really sweet. And on the other end of the scale, there's Olivier Armstrong, who really is just tough and wants to fight, but she still fights for the side of good, and she fights for what's right, and super strong. Again, there are a lot of strong characters. Oh god, someone stop me, I can't stop talking about the characters. Okay, I'll pick one more I like, and then I'll shut up forever. Hohenheim. He is immortality done right. He's old. He acts old. There's a lot of immortal people in books who are like, oh yeah, I've looked like I'm 17 forever, so I'm still gonna act like I'm 17. But no, he acts old and he feels old, and the way he talks is just like he's been around forever and he's sick of it, you know? And then now he has this family and he doesn't want to die before his family does, so he's looking for a way to change that. and he's all weary from time, but he's really smart, and he also really cares about all of the lives that were given to give him life. He's a really mysterious guy, but he's a big softie, and all he wants is for his sons to love him. Does it count if I talk about the villains? No, I'm gonna talk about the villains. Villains are so well done in this. Basically, Hiromu Arakawa made villains who prey on the basic human emotions of fear. What if I'm being watched? What if that person isn't who I think they are? What if the problem is in the government? They're even named after the 7 deadly sins, which are obviously timeless human emotions and fears. They're written into the Bible, which is like, it's 2015? 2015 years old. I don't know if that's actually. And actually the author did her research so well, because there are little sprinkles of like religion and mythology all in this. Like, not just the 7 deadly sins, which is the obvious example, but like von Hohenheim's name comes from a famous alchemist. Like, there are little bits of her research everywhere, and you can really dig into it and find that she totally thought this out completely and mapped it out, and this was all that she was thinking about for a very long time. The plot is amazing, and the ending culmination of it all is killer, with the perfect blend of emotions and oh my god moments and action, and all of the characters that you know and love coming back together and fighting and beating the bad guy, and then at the end it shows the flashes of where they all end up in the end. And it's like what I said in the Undivided video, where at the end it's like, you just get this feeling in your heart of love, and look at all my characters and what they've come to, and man, that world is beautiful, and our world is beautiful, and everything is beautiful, and I love life. Okay, I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna leave, trying to make my videos shorter. I'll leave forever. Goodbye. If you liked Fullmetal Alchemist, there are lots of other good mangas out there, but none shall compare.